This is Sky News with Luquesa Burak.
Good morning. Islamic State militants have continued their assault on Iraq's cultural treasures by bulldozing the 3,000-year-old ancient city of Nimrud. The UN has described the destruction as a war crime, with the Iraqi government saying its history is systematically being erased. The attack on Nimrud comes just a week after footage emerged of extremists destroying artifacts at a museum in Mosul. As Sky's Jonathan Samuels now reports.
Of huge historical significance, the ancient city of Nimrud in northern Iraq dates back almost 3,000 years. Now, Iraqi officials say ancient tombs, palaces and artifacts have not only been damaged, but the site has been bulldozed by Islamic State militants. The area is south of Mosul, where just days ago IS militants filmed themselves destroying priceless statues and exhibits in the city museum. Their video complete with music and slow motion. The latest reports have brought condemnation.
This once again demonstrates their barbarism and savageness and antagonism towards the Iraqi people, not only of the present time but throughout history and our ancient civilization.
So this is what's called palaceware. It's a type of Neo-Assyrian object, basically a small cup, essentially.
Archaeologists around the world are appalled at the deliberate destruction.
It's a devastating loss, and it's very, very hurtful, actually. It certainly is a very important historical site that's being destroyed, that's going to tell us something about how society developed during the 9th through the 7th century BC, which is a critical time period with regards to how the region, the ancient Near East, developed in that time phrase, and then how it eventually shapes our own sort of realities.
The UN has described the rampage of this site as a war crime.
Extremists use increasingly and deliberately, I would say, the destruction of heritage as part of their strategy of cultural cleansing.
Islamic State says shrines and statues are false idols, and there are other reasons they revel in such cultural chaos.
These spectacular gestures of malign cruelty and thuggery are designed to sever Assyrians and other people of Iraq from their own material heritage, from their memory and from their history. Alongside these headline-grabbing gestures of destruction, the Islamic State also sells off the vast majority of things that it finds in an attempt to financially support their campaign.
Some artifacts from Nimrud can be found at the British Museum. They have just become even more precious and rare as IS continues to rock the cradle of civilization. Jonathan Samuels, Sky News.
Well, live to Los Angeles, and we can speak to the National Security Analyst Arash Aramesh from Stanford University. Thanks for joining us, Arash. Tell us about the significance then of Nimrud.
This is a historic site. This is not just a site that belongs to Iraqi civilization and to all Iraqis, but to world civilization. This is one of the oldest sites where we have remains of a very prosperous, powerful Assyrian civilization that since it has ceased to exist, and we still have Assyrians around the world, but ISIS decided today or yesterday to bulldoze the remnants of it. Why is it significant? Let me break this down along two lines. Along ideological lines, ISIS justifies these actions by saying, A, any sort of statues, any sort of artifact that can be considered as idols must be destroyed because it could promote or it could tempt people into idolatry. And they cite as the prophet of Islam, Muhammad, when he entered Mecca and he went to the house of God, Kaaba, he destroyed all the statues, all the idols, everything that was in there to cleanse every idol that was there so people would worship the only God, Allah. A second reason is that ISIS, as well as many other radical Islamist organizations, have very little regard for whatever pre-Islamic civilization there is. Within Islamic ideology itself, the world is divided into two different ages, the age of Islam and the age of Jahiliyyah. Jahiliyyah, which refers to pre-Islamic times, literally in Arabic means the times of ignorance, the times of darkness. So if the times before Islam were all ignorant, destroying all that is fully and completely justified. On a final note, having said all that, and we all know that ISIS does not represent the vast majority of Muslims, but ISIS is trying very hard to appeal to a certain crowd of disgruntled, radicalized Muslim crowd. And by doing so, by sticking to the most hardline interpretation of Islam, such as destroying idols and statues and artifacts and civilized cultural artifacts, it is in fact doing a pretty good job recruiting people from places including Europe.
Somewhat condescending, though, for many Muslims, Arash. I mean, this is part of history, and hypocritical too, because they are picking what they want of these historical artifacts and selling the ones on which are easy to export out of the country, and then using these larger statues to destroy as some PR point. Why exactly are they pushing this through? I mean, it's, you know, financially they're okay. Do people really believe what they're saying?
Some do, and a lot of people don't. The vast majority of the Muslim world, for the most part, feel very uncomfortable, embarrassed, and uneasy with the actions of ISIS. But this is not a heterogeneous population, a homogeneous population, I'm sorry. There are pockets within the Islamic community that are certainly drawn to this message. Look at the number of jihadis who have left Brussels and London and Liverpool and Bradford and Paris to go fight and take up arms and fight alongside ISIS against other Muslims. And let's also not forget that the vast majority of ISIS victims have been Muslims. So do some people buy this sort of PR move? Absolutely. But let's also not forget that this is not the first time this is happening. In 2001, right? A few months before the 9/11 attacks, the Taliban in Afghanistan destroyed two of the oldest statues of Buddha that we've had. The Taliban destroyed it. We couldn't do anything about it. The global community just condemned it. Back in 1979, after the Iranian Revolution, a very famous cleric, Ayatollah Khomeini, wanted to destroy the remnants of Persepolis, the remains of the Persian Empire. Gladly's cooler heads prevailed, and he was prevented from doing so. But this is not the first time that some radicals want to do this sort of thing. I've already told you the justification for it, but for the most part, it's a PR move, and they're trying to appeal to the hot-headed, radicalized youth to go join their cause because they're the thugs who are willing to destroy everything to get their point across.
Arash, the UN are describing this as a war crime. Some people would say, you know, at the end of the day, there are lives that are actually being destroyed and wiped out by IS. Do you agree with them describing it as a war crime and putting it so high up the agenda?
Well, if ethnic cleansing is a war crime, which indeed it is, part of ethnic cleansing, aside from going into town to town and killing people who worship a different god or happen to be of a different sect or a different ethnic group, a part of it is also to erase their heritage. By erasing their heritage, you're erasing their existence. So yes, it is a war crime. And on top of that, ISIS is not only guilty of war crimes and ethnic cleansing, but in certain geographical locations in Iraq and Syria, a very good argument could be made that ISIS is also guilty of genocide. And when we mention the word genocide, there's a legal responsibility for certain countries to intervene. And that's why the State Department, the Foreign Office in the UK, they hesitate when it comes down to using the word genocide. But it is very clear that the Islamic State of Iraq and Levant has engaged in a systematic ethnic and sectarian cleansing of wherever that has come under the control, killing Christians, killing Shiites, killing Alawites, killing non-Arabs, going after the Yazidis or the Yazidis, killing Kurds, you name it. And I'm sure I'm leaving a few groups of people off that list. Not only killing them, but enslaving their women, selling their women in the slave market, enslaving their children, and building mass graves, several mass graves out of corpses and bodies that have come under ISIS control. So without a doubt, their actions have constituted war crimes. But let's not forget, there are hundreds of thousands of lives that have been lost. Just 250,000 in Syria alone in the past 4 years. ISIS has also gone a step further. Not only they will kill those who do not belong to their sect or ethnic group, they will also cleanse any memory of their culture and their existence.
Okay, fantastic explanation there. Arash, thank you very much.